So Tarkir Dragonstorm is probably the best and worst thing that has ever happened to me. And let me tell you why. So if you know anything about me, I build a ton of decks on Moxfield. Day in and day out, I'm thinking of new strategies and new things that I can do that can turn into commander decks. Every single week, I try to think of something more and more unique. Different strategies appear in my brain almost weekly, and I try to build decks around those strategies. Sometimes they pan out well, and other times, not so well. But every once in a while, I think to myself that I have found a really cool strategy that's quite unique, and I build an entire deck around either a theme or a game plan that I want to execute in a commander game. This is awesome, and I think in my most recent couple of posts, some that stand out are my Marchesa deck and my Balmor deck. Balmor is an Izzet Spellslinger beatdown strategy, and it is really, really cool. You typically use a lot of your mana in the early game to play some prowess creatures, and then in the late game, when you find an opening, you try to storm off in a single turn and kill the entire table. Or at least kill 1 to 2 players and finish the game off the next turn. And my Marchesa deck was a token-heavy, control-based strategy that really focused on getting passive value throughout the entire game. Whether it's from your opponents doing things or you doing things, you want to be drawing cards, making mana, or dealing damage. These two strategies were actually really, really cool. But let me tell you how this relates back to Tarkir Dragonstorm. Tarkir Dragonstorm is an absolute blast of a set. I had a ton of fun playing the limited format, and I'm having an absolute blast playing these new cards. This set might go down in history as one of, if not the best set ever printed, at least in the past 5 to 10 years, in my opinion. This set has been an absolute blast, and I've heard nothing but good things from other people at my LGS. However, I will say one thing that I have a gripe with, and that thing is the precons. Now, before you go getting mad at me for whatever reason, let me finish my point real quick. As I said at the beginning of the video, I love making unique and new strategies. I love the process of finding a ton of cards that happen to fit either a niche strategy or fit a very broad strategy that can then be focused down slowly but surely. In most cases, I'm only using cards that are adjacently synergistic or slightly cohesive, and using all 100 cards to my advantage in order to make a single strategy work. But in this most recent set, not just one, but 2 of these pre-constructed commander decks are exactly the strategies that I'm trying to build, all in a single commander. In Marchesa, my entire strategy was to go wide with tokens, sacrifice them for value, and get passive effects from that happening. It wasn't necessarily aggro, it was a bit more control, but the goal was to make a ton of tokens and force my opponents to deal with it. The new Zurgo Stormender commander deck is that exact strategy, just a bit more aggressive. If you were to tell me that I would be able to have the same colors, be able to sacrifice my creatures at instant speed for either draw or damage, be able to get a whole new suite of cards that make tapped and attacking creatures, and be able to use combat tricks all in the same deck, I would not have believed you until I saw these Tarkir precons. This precon is absolutely cracked and has already replaced my Marchesa deck. Can you imagine my hype while also my frustration of seeing a commander that just immediately slots in way better than the commander I was previously using? Not only is it more aggressive, which is more of my style, not only does it utilize tokens a lot more effectively, not only does it draw cards more effectively, deal damage more effectively, it also is just a cooler concept of a deck. And it's new and it's fresh, but it all does it in one single card. This commander is the engine and the payoff. If you don't know, this commander also has an infinite combo that goes with it in an Abdel Adrian line, simply because the text says whenever a token leaves the battlefield. If you have any instant speed sack outlet, you can draw cards at will, or you can deal damage at will. The amount of flexibility that Zurgo provides into the deck, while also being 1 mana cheaper, makes him that much better than Queen Marchesa. Not only that, but again, it's more of my playstyle. It's a lot more aggressive, and it forces my opponents into very difficult decisions. Am I going to block these tokens and kill them while making him draw more cards? Or am I going to let the token hit me for damage just for him to potentially sacrifice it at instant speed and draw the card anyways? Or if he doesn't sacrifice it, I'm also taking that damage. If we really think about it, a 1/1 dealing damage to you and then dying at the end step now has dealt double the damage. Add on some damage doublers or token doublers, and this deck is dealing significant damage to the entire table every single turn. Not only that, but when you add more token makers, more tapped and attacking creatures, and more sack outlets, you have full control of what is happening during combat at all times. Add in some instants that can help you win some of these combats because your commander is only a 3/3, and you are absolutely set for an incredible engine that helps you not only dig through your library, but deal a ton of damage to your opponents. Again, this is the only problem I have with this set, and it's not even really a problem. It's just the fact that yes, I love these new commanders, but I can't believe that they have already replaced some old commanders that I just built, simply because they are more my style and they are that much better. Zurgo is 1 mana less and has the entire engine just on his own. That is absolutely insane, and it's something that I'm not going to pass up, especially because I also find the play patterns a lot more fun. But I also mentioned Balmor. Why did I mention Balmor? Well, if we take a look at the Jeskai precon, the backup commander, Elsha Threefold Master, is absolutely insane. The only problem that Balmor had in terms of speed is the fact that you had to spend a lot of your mana creating a board state. This means that you're playing cards like Roaming Throne, you're playing Slick Shot Show Off, you're playing Varen, you're playing your commander, and maybe you're playing something like an Archmage of Runes. This is a ton of mana to invest only to get 5 creatures out of it that have some sort of prowess effects. With Elsha, you don't need to worry about any of that. Here is a normal, typical game of Elsha Threefold Master. Turn 1, play an Esper Sentinel or another cantrip effect. Turn 2, play some sort of ramp, or if you played a ramp spell on turn 1, play Elsha. Turn 3 or 4, you're swinging with Elsha and you're playing a combat trick like Legion Leadership, Monstrous Rage, Psychotic Fury, or Titan Strength. And now you have just as many creatures as Balmor would have on turn 5 or 6, but instead you have it on as early as turn 4 or 5. Almost 2 turns earlier and so much less mana spent on your actual board state. Now, the next turn, you're able to storm off just as effectively as Balmor, and the only thing you're missing is Trample. And I didn't even mention the fact that you add a whole separate color to this list. While it doesn't add a ton, you add things like Smothering Tithe, which is a huge mana resource in a mana hungry deck. You add a Chroma's Will, which is an insane finisher that sometimes can cost as low as 1 mana with your cost reducers. You add cards like Jeskai Ascendancy, Rediscover the Way, and Whirlwind of Thought. These are all incredible cards that, although you don't have a lot of new white cards in this deck, the white cards that you do add are incredibly valuable to your strategy. That, on top of the fact that is simply 1 mana more, and that's only for the pips, is absolutely insane. These 2 commanders, I now have a love-hate relationship with. Yes, do I love these new commanders, and am I playing them? Absolutely. Do I kind of hate the fact that they have completely power crept 2 of my most recent commanders? Also, absolutely. This new set is beautiful. I absolutely love it, and I think it is incredible, and I think it will go down in history as one of the best Magic sets out there. Do I love the fact that I get to play these new commanders that have incredibly cool play patterns? Yes, but I'm just a little bit upset at the fact that a lot of the commanders I've been playing now have almost been completely outclassed by these other 2 options. Now, you've probably been saying to yourself this entire video, just still play the old decks. The thing is though, is that this is why I'm not necessarily complaining. I'm complaining in the small sense that these commanders have only been in my roster for a little bit, but I'm also going to move past them because these new commanders are absolutely insane. And like I said, I love the play patterns so much more. So I will weep the losses of my 2 newest commander decks, and I will relish in the fact that I have 2 brand new commanders that are absolutely busted and that I love playing. If you guys are enjoying Tarkir Dragonstorm, please let me know in the comments below. Let me know what commanders you have been playing recently and which ones you love. And tell me which commander decks you might be replacing with some of these either pre-constructed commanders or newest legends. Ladies and gentlemen, I have been Deck Driver, and thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you next time.